All right, so to begin our session today, what we've been asked to do is role play the different individuals that were involved in the compensation meeting in the pay and benefits. I guess it's the case of the unpopular pay plan, and we get to role play that. So just to remind everybody, Dawn is going to role play Sid Noble. Shelly's going to role play Ruth Gibson. Benjamin is going to role play Miles Haddock. And Tammy's going to role play Bill Purcell. And because I am the leader this week, I get to play in the role of Gilbert. So what we're supposed to do, we're going to take just a couple minutes and review what that person's philosophy was and what their argument is on the proposed pay scale. And then we together in those roles have to come up with 20 different options that we can look at for pay. Does that everybody understand?
Did you say 20?
Yeah, it says we have to come up with with 20 ideas. Yeah.
20 a piece or 20 in total?
Together as a group.
Okay.
We're going to bring 20 ideas. And they don't have to be completely different. They just need to be tweaked in some way.
Okay.
So let's just give ourselves
a couple 20 ways to pay people.
So let's give ourselves 5 minutes, and then we'll come back together and start this second meeting that they talked about.
All right.
Are you guys there, or do you want some more time?
I'm good. I'm okay.
Okay.
That should be good.
So let's. Okay.
Okay.
You all right? Okay. So, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Top 10 Pay Committee meeting. As you know, Sam Verde has asked me to lead this committee. Although I worked hard on the initial pay plan, I realized that no one will be successful without support from employees. I want to get your input so we can create a pay plan that will be best for everyone. So now we get to brainstorm ideas that we feel like the employees in this company will go for. Who would like to start with their first idea?
Playing as Bill Purcell, my first idea would be 15% voluntary severance to cut down on the entire workforce instead of making a pay change. It's a fancy layoffs.
Yeah, layoffs.
Ruth Gibson here. What about all of us who've been working really hard to make all these improvements over the past 3 years, and there hasn't been raises or payouts or bonuses for us, and we've been working really hard, so we need some sort of bonus for that reflects the improvements we've made.
And are you asking for that for just your team or for the company in general?
I think the teams that can demonstrate that they have shown improvement and benefit the company, and they can come up with their own proposals, and they have to prove it, and then that they should receive the bulk of the bonus if they've actually done the work.
So would you be creating your own like goals in order to be evaluated on, or is that something that's left for a committee to create?
I think we should prepare a report that shows all of the improvements. My group has worked really hard. We've worked weekends. We've really gone gangbusters to buy into this new improvement system, and we've made improvements that other groups are now capitalizing on, and I think we deserve some compensation.
Okay. So back to Bill for a minute. With your voluntary layoffs, what kind of how are we going to make up the deficit in our workforce and still be able to manufacture and do our jobs with 15% less people?
Well, we already have too many people who can't and won't get on board with the plan that we have right now. So we're spending money and time training those people. By getting rid of that 15% of people, we would be at a point where the pay schedule that we've come up with would work, or that this man's come up with would work.
Okay. So what about you, John, representing Sid Noble? What ideas do you think we can implement for the pay?
Yes. In fact, with regards to the plan that Gilbert actually introduced, we made to understand that the new plan is going to be like the members of the team first, and whosoever has expertise, that would be the second. But that is what Noble was saying, that he is not going to accept that because he has people who are experts in the various fields, which of course he actually want them to be paid, and not necessarily like considering the whole thing. So for me, I think his ideology, I also believe in that even though we have the team, but we can see that a lot of people are also much higher than others, and if we can make them feel good, maybe they can also work harder in order to produce much of the things that we need. So even though we have the group, we have the team, but what he's saying is that it shouldn't be like down first before any professionalism will come. My point.
Okay, so you feel like there needs to be motivation through compensation?
Yes, yes. I feel like the motivation.
So should those scientists that are highly educated automatically make more, and those who are on the line automatically make less? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. Could anybody else hear what John said? I'm sorry.
It seemed like it started getting worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Ben? Tell us what Miles Haddock would want.
Yeah, I'm Benjamin representing Miles, and I think that having teams sounds like a nice idea, where we focus on teams and evaluate their performance and give them benefits. But having the same kind of reward system for everybody as an individual is what I'm going for, because we're still going to have essentially the same result, and it helps motivate everybody as a whole. If we have all the most effective people in one group who are getting all the incentives, then I, as Miles, I'm seeing that as a negative.
So there should be competition? Is that kind of where we're going?
I think so.
I don't know. I was trying to.
Yeah, if we have it just based on teams and their performance, then everybody else is less motivated. Miles I seem to think that people are kind of fighting for more benefits than other people are trying to get.
John, you're back. I couldn't hear you part of the time. I'm sorry.
Yes, I was saying, just as I was saying, I was trying to make it a point that the scientists supposed to be paid more than any other individuals in the, I don't know, but just as he said, it's because is maybe the reason why they were employed. So it's like a grading in that kind of. You see, we can't all live within the same the payment.
Okay, so the original argument started with the presentation of the plan, that there was going to be a 75% base pay based on their former pay, or maybe even another industry standard for that position. And then the flexible pay would be 25%, determined by the team's ability to show a 5% annual improvement in quality, unit cost to market, speed to market, safety, and divisional finance performance. Our job is to come up with some ideas that maybe we can eventually get these different perspectives to agree on in payroll, or in coming up with a pay plan for this company. Anybody have an idea of what could work as a group that maybe will satisfy all these different personalities?
No, I have no ideas. It's so hard because there's so many people that feel like their thought or their idea is right. When I first read through it, I really liked the comment, and I don't remember now who made it, but the comment, somebody said quality is 30% of the flexible pay. Why not make it 50? Like where do those numbers come from? And so I think before you can decide on how to make everybody pick a pay plan that works, that everybody likes, which you're never going to pick something everybody likes. That's not going to happen. But you have to set some kind of standard as to why you're picking, for example, 30% quality is part of the flexible pay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So let's start even simpler than that for a minute. Do we all feel like that base pay as 75% is fine? Do you feel like the base pay part is fair?
I think it's too threatening. You know, I mean, when you tell an employee that there's a potential of them making 75% of what they made last year, they're not going to look at the positives and be like, oh, well, I might make 125 if I make all these improvements. They're going to look at that 75%.
I agree. I also feel like along those lines that maybe the rollout needs to be longer because of that. So if they do decide to do a base pay flexible pay plan, the rollout should be years maybe before they get to that point of 75% base pay.
Okay, and how would you? I mean, how would you go about initiating something like that? Especially if you do this flexible pay to get back to where you were last year is based on 5% better than you were last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I kind of feel like that doing better than last year there should be some reward to that, not just status quo.
Not just part of your pay, but like a bonus, right?
Yeah, something to that effect.
I agree.
Yeah.
So maybe take that part out altogether.
Okay. So
maybe
instead of
salary.
Okay. So instead of having a base pay and flexible pay, we're back to more the traditional salary.
Or I just mean take out the annual improvement part.
Okay.
5% annual improvement is based on those 4 areas. So maybe just don't do that. An annual improvement is a bonus.
Okay. So but we would still, what about the flexible pay? Keeping those other markers for the flexible.
Flexible pay is 25% determined by the annual improvement and the division performance, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
The 25% is actually broken
right.
down into 30% of that is quality. So that 25% is broken down into these other 4 areas that now are all percent of 100. Does that make sense?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think flexible pay is broken down into annual improvement and divisional performance. And then annual improvement is then broken down again.
Oh, yeah. So annual improvement is broken down into 4 areas, and then divisional performance is the other 15. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
How does that add up? Because
it doesn't. That's why I'm looking at it going, is that even right? Because because it says team's ability to show 5% annual improvement is not a percentage of the 25%.
Yeah.
So 15% is divisional financial performance. The other 10% to make up the 20% flexible pay would be the annual improvement of 5%.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Does that even make sense? That is weird.
It is weird.
But I would take that out because that's 10%. Flexible pay would be 10% showing annual improvement. But I wouldn't make the whole 25% divisional financial performance. Maybe keep that at 15%. So flexible pay would end up being just divisional financial and performance. Am I making any sense?
Yeah. So would we use those benchmarks at all for the other annual improvement that they're talking about, the quality, cost, all that stuff?
Yeah, based as a bonus. I wouldn't put it as part of their pay.
Okay.
Yeah. Those breakdowns would be fine to figure out a bonus number, but not as part of their pay.
Okay. So what do you think of that, Shelley? Do you have any thoughts on how that?
Am I being me or am I being Ruth?
Yeah, I just switched. I'm me again.
You know what? Yeah. It's so hard to be somebody else. I think we have to look at it and say, okay, well, the guy who feels like the scientists should just be scientists, we still at some point have to take into consideration how he feels. But let's just talk about from our perspective what we can do and then try to solve it that way.
I liked a lot of what Tammy said. I wouldn't mind even tying raises to some of these improvements. That's how you qualify for raises.
Okay.
I think most of it should be in a bonus form, but I don't think that I think that's where people are really squabbling, is when they're saying 75% of your current pay is based, and then, so if you want to get a raise, then you've got to show that you're putting more effort in. I do kind of like the idea of the group all receiving similar raises or similar status as a team, although there's always going to be teams where you have one or two really motivated people and then one or two slackers,
Yeah.
So that, but maybe within the group they can, strategize how to overcome that. Because I know when having to do raises and stuff, especially if you have to rate people, and a lot of companies are using this where, one person of your group can get an A and they get a 5% raise, and then you can have 2 Bs and 3 Cs, and then,
really?
Like that kind of thing. That becomes really political and really hard, especially when you have multiple good employees, and you want to reward all of them for their good work, but you're only allowed to give out 1 A. I kind of think it would be nice. I think it would cement teamwork a little bit more. And we're all part of this group trying to improve. So I do like that part of it. But not as Ruth. Ruth just wants her money.
It's kind of the opposite.
So in our reading this week, the 6 dangerous myths about pay. Mm-hmm. Basically, all these same things that we're talking about are really were discussed in that paper.
Yep.
It's whether or not people are motivated really by money, or if it's creating more issues. Anybody have a thought on it?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I think that would lead us, if we're trying to be effective, to have maybe bonuses at the year that were based more on group performance. Because if you have it focused on one individual, I know especially if it's like a Christmas bonus. I worked at a car dealership, and I don't think they stole each other's business, but they're definitely aggressive.
Yeah.
Anybody that walks in the door and any connection, or if they overhear somebody else is interested in something, it's like they'll almost take somebody else's business away from them. So you have to try to make methods so everybody wants to work with each other, and focus on the ultimate goal instead of me.
What about different types of bonuses or different types of compensation for for the huge improvements. I mean, what about extra paid days off or something like that? Would that be as motivating?
I think that'd be really motivating, especially I think people in this generation are much more interested in having a balanced life and not being, workaholics and stuff. So I think, especially if you're trying to attract some of the young new talent that's coming out of school now, that more days off would be big.
I think it all depends on what kind of business it is. I think if people are really happy with what kind of job they have, like where they're placed, or they're feeling like they're getting to that point, with like a program so they can be trained, then they're more likely to be happy. I forget if it was this class or another, but Google allows for 20% of their time, like every day, to be for like creative time. A lot of the time they still use it for work, but they can, be building another type of computer or all kinds of gadgets or some kind of new app with 20% of their time, whatever they want to do. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of program goes along with this business. But that's the funny thing. I couldn't seem to find much about the culture or any of the details about this company. I'm like,
being a chemical company, it isn't of you do. I don't know how it's going to sound rude, but you kind of get a set of like your lab people, your scientists that really are. Some of them probably that is their life. That's what they enjoy, and versus the guys who are packaging it who just want to go out and ride dirt bikes after work. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
How does that team dynamic work if we're in a team with those multiple disciplines?
I'd be curious to see. I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I'd be curious to see if there was a mix-up of those people. Do the scientists generally have to work with the scientist, or is it like one scientist per team? I'd be curious to see that, but I don't know if we know that. I think communication would be very important. I guess that's another thing that we don't know. I'm sorry, we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking the same thing. Is how is it structured that the scientists are on the same? Because I've never seen that in my working career. Usually, you have your group of engineers or your group of this, and they're doing one thing, and then they deliver it to the guys out on the floor, and they're the other team. But it seems like maybe it's a couple of chemists have a project, and then they have their own lab or their own different groups of blue collar workers that help them get it out, and so at least that's what I'm extrapolating between Sid and Ruth's conversation.
Yeah, I think that's the only indication we have that there is some mix theirs in their conversation.
Mm-hmm. I think that's part of the reason why they're trying to push a team pay scale. I don't know what to call it. Because if the scientists and the workers work together as a group, the scientists will know better what they need to come up with or what they're what the work is, and the workers will know better. It seems like a more of a cohesive union. Like Shelley said, I don't know what the dynamic is at this particular company, but if they do base pay on a team effort, there may not be such a division, and we don't know a lot about the culture, like Benjamin said, but that might help with the culture of the business, of the company, which might lead to more acceptance of the pay scale too, or the pay program. I don't know.
So oh, John, do you have something?
Yes, In fact, it's very, very, very true. But over here in our country, it doesn't happen like it's working with the laborers, someone who doesn't have any expertise. Just as the chemical chemist that we are talking about, probably will make the whole thing unwell. Who that kind of will also to help carrying, removing, or maybe do certain things that is not too much of professionalism. So it doesn't come just like that. That same person will also receive the pay with that scientist. We believe that maybe the scientists have gone through a whole lot of training, going to the high school and other things, but the other group members, they have not learned much. So sometimes it's very, very difficult to create a level of payment the group members. I believe that they are all producing the same thing. They are in the same purpose. But when it comes to motivation, I mean, if care not taken, these high professionals will not. They will not stay. They will, and they leave you. So that is how this Noble was talking about, and I'm sure it's very, very true. All these percentages, just as they were saying, they did not know where those percentages actually came from. They are trying to produce some sort of documents, but we believe that the whole committee members, they are not in support with and actually brought. So it's up to them to know that even though they wanted to make it in a professional inside the be about the whole situation.
So I understand what you're saying. I think as far as those scientists are more educated, which is what their base pay is based on. It's only that flexible that adjusts it. So they all receive the same base pay they would for their education. So those scientists would probably still receive the pay based on what they were making already because of their higher education. And then the only thing that changes is that flexible pay or the bonus, as we've been talking about, maybe the 15% divisional performance. That's what would adjust. Does everybody else feel the same way?
I do, but I don't know if what the result really is. My guess is that the flexible pay is kind of taken away from the scientist, and that they don't really like that too much. But is that what everybody else is thinking? The kind of the results are from this?
I definitely think that's what the Noble guy is thinking. He's feeling like they should just maintain their 100% and it shouldn't have anything to do with the performance of anyone else because they just do their jobs.
Yeah, and this plan is suggesting that they kind of make it more flexible, that the bonuses are kind of distributed more equally, right?
Yeah, I think that's what they're saying with that's what his perspective is. That his scientists are professionals, that nobody should be touching their pay.
So he doesn't like the plan.
Not at all.
He doesn't like me, I guess, Miles. That's
So, but then, Ruth had her problem. Isn't she the one that felt like they had like busted their butt?
Yeah, because they rolled out this whole new program and asked for all these incentivized or improvements to be made, and her group got involved right away, and yet there were no big raises or bonuses. And so I think she's feeling a little too like, well, we've already improved so much. How can we improve? The groups that didn't improve at all, they've got a long ways to go. But my group, where we've already made all these improvements, we've got just, much less on that curve. And
well, not just that, but she wants to see up front, for the efforts they've already given, I think.
Yeah, she wants to see something for, all of those things. We don't have, we've worked really hard, and, all we've gotten is, a pat on the back every now and then. We haven't seen any bonuses or pay raises or anything. Not much anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea I'm thinking is maybe with our ideas, it's trying to find a balance between having a way to kind of give the incentives or the bonuses based on department and then based on group. Because I think that you could do both. But I honestly don't know how the percentages or the numbers involved, whether it be 5,000 if the department meets some quota, and then if the specific group does so well, doing really well, maybe like Roos and getting a 10,000 on top of that. I guess we could theoretically make a bunch of guesses about that, but.
So as far as base pay, we were feeling like the 75% was really threatening. What would be a good base pay if we were going to tie any of this and have a quality performance? Were we going to do the 85 as a base pay? Is that what we had discussed?
I think we need to stagger it. If we want to get to this 75%, we need to show, okay, first it's just going to be 95%, and then you get the incentives. And then we can go down the next year to, and get people on board with it.
Okay, so
idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the idea that in this one that Maggie Cole wrote, if they were to show the plan without payments, like show what could happen to employees, then people might get on board a little bit, because if it really is going to increase their pay overall, then they'll want to know that. But right now, I think they don't think that.
Well, it doesn't sound like it. It does feel like you're knocking them down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So a longer rollout, maybe 5% or whatever a year for a few years.
A much longer rollout, and then maybe we can get to 75 if that's really what they want to do. But it's a much longer rollout.
And another idea that kind of goes along with that is we could have more of that flexible pay the higher you go up in the hierarchy of the business, or the better position you get. Because the higher you go up, you already have that base pay, and you're probably even getting a little better. But then you're willing, you're motivated to make the company better and work harder and do these extra projects, and then there's even more reward involved. I think that might work.
Another idea that sounds like a nightmare to the bookkeeper, maybe, but is to keep track of if the 75% base pay is the goal, maybe keep track, for instance, what my pay would be at 75% with my 25% flexible pay. And let's say it's $100,000 a year is what I earn that way. But my base pay at 100% is 120,000 a year. So I get paid my base pay because I get paid whatever's greater in the first, let's say, 3 years until we can figure out a way to increase flexible pay so that I don't lose any money in the long run. Did that make any sense?
I think, I think that would be really hard.
It would be a nightmare for the bookkeeper, a nightmare.
I was looking to see somebody, and one of those people that we're talking about was talking about tying it to the actual profitability of the company. I'm trying to figure out who it is. It looks like it's Miles. Was talking about, you know, if when there's a downturn in the economy, or when the price of product goes up, those kinds of things, it's the company that's been taking the hit because of the salaried positions, instead of, you know, tying it the welfare of the company, salaries of the employees together. So as the company does better, the salaries of the employees are better. Does that make sense?
But does that also work in reverse? If the company, you know, has a bad year, then the employees also lose?
That's what he's saying. He says, you know, when the oil prices go up, then the cost of the product goes up, then the company takes an across-the-board hit. Yeah. So everybody would be affected by that, you know. But then on those years that they're very profitable, they would also be.
Right.
That's a really typical upper management kind of idea, because most of their bonuses have traditionally been tied to, you know, profitability and their division, and you know, I can remember having this very argument with when I was very first starting working, and you know, our big boss, vice president in charge of our division, came out, and we had this whole thing, and that's what he was talking about, was his bonus and how much he would lose if this didn't happen. And we're all like, yeah, but you're making $300,000-$400,000 more than me, the little bookkeeper. You know, yeah. I'm not so worried about that.
Right.
But so I think if we followed Miles' plan all the way to its conclusion, I think we would lose a good core of our working class people. They're not going to go for that.
The alternative to basing pay on profitability, isn't the alternative to that basing bonuses on profitability? So, like, I'm thinking, I don't want to lose my base pay. There's like, what can I do to not lose my base pay, but still tie into the idea of, you know, some kind of flexible pay or some kind of bonus that's based on something other than my work.
So
how are they figuring this out anyway? You know, because I've done payroll. I mean, at some point you just have to say, okay, this person makes $15 an hour, this person makes $30 an hour, whatever it is.
Yep.
You have to pay at that rate. So it's got to be somehow in bonuses. And they're just thinking of it as a, you know, well, that's all income according to the, you know, taxable income. So,
or maybe that adjust quarterly based on what's been recorded, you know.
Right.
But that would be a nightmare for your payroll person to have to go in and change all that at that time.
Yeah, for a huge company. I mean,
or the accountants.
Oh, terrible.
Don't worry about them.
even an individual with their taxes, that would be a nightmare, not to know what bracket they were going to be in, based on
your tax bracket changing.
Flexing every quarter because you just don't know, and you got to change your withholding or whatever.
Oh no.
I agree. I think it needs to be, probably in my own personal opinion, I think it would be better as a year-end payout, like almost as like you would a profit sharing at the end of the year or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Big old Christmas bonus.
Yeah. Let's see. So,
how are we doing on our 20 ideas? Are you?
Well, we're supposed to be coming up with ideas, and it says, you know, to come up with like 20, but then part of what we've been doing it is taking those ideas and kind of trying to work out some of the who's going to like this and who's not going to like it, and how can we make it so that the committee will agree on it, or what's it gonna take to get the committee to agree on it? So, sorry, I gotta find my questions. Anyway, I think it's gonna be really about. I'm not sure that we'll get any of these people to agree on one plan. But I think most of them would get on board with, like you said, the longer rollout and preserving their base pay so that they can see how it is going to be integrated and how it's going to touch them. Because most people, especially those line people that are packaging stuff, they're going to live paycheck to paycheck. And knowing that they're going to lose 25% or could lose up to 25% of their pay will send them into, you know, they wouldn't be able to keep this job.
Yeah, I agree. If we went with that plan, you probably would have your base workers, a lot of them leave, and you would definitely scare people off.
How would you you yourselves? How would you feel about it? I mean, if we were gonna implement that in the place you work, like even the 95% and then just gradually roll it in, would you feel like scared to death?
Yeah.
Where I am in my life currently, I wouldn't like it because I don't have a great position and I don't have the confidence of a great team like I know these scientists do, who know, at least a lot of them know that they're going to do really well, even if the market kind of shifts, because they're going to do everything in their power to succeed, or maybe they have more things available to them.
So
I think it's
it
a little
would be scary, but I think if that's okay. I'm sorry. I think it would be scary for. I mean, I don't work in a full-time position, and I feel like I can't really speak to how it would affect me personally right now. But my feeling is, if I could retain my base pay somehow, that it wouldn't be as bad. That I would feel like maybe I could figure out a way to make the eventual loss of pay make up for that in my team bonus or whatever is decided. But it would be hard.
So in this case that we just studied, what do you think is the most important thing that you learned from the case?
There's no right answer.
I think we really have three different components of employees within this company. You have the scientists, or your white collar, if you will, the upper educated workers, and then you have your blue collar workers, and they're the ones actually doing the physical labor. And then you have your kind of more bureaucrat, the management, the training. It seems like they all have different needs, and maybe trying to come up with one pay plan that fits everybody's needs in there is not going to be the way it's possible. Maybe we need to structure it slightly differently. Whereas, the research and development guys are paid for how much research and development they're actually come up with. And the working class, the laborers, are paid for how much product they get out the door and do it safely. And, and then the management can have their pay structured based on overall profitability and how the company is working well, overall works. Because they all have different motivations and different goals. And we need to encourage all three of those things.
Yeah. I
Well said.
Let's see. Okay, so I think we've gone over everything that we needed to as far as that case was concerned. Should we talk a little bit about our next doohickey? I haven't seen it graded yet. Has anybody else?
No.
And I know it's not due for a couple weeks, but I think if we started a little earlier on getting an,
It'll be the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So we already know, since this is the week, so we know it's going to be at least part working on pay. That's going to be one of our topics. So maybe we can come or start even putting ideas on another Google Doc with ideas on pay. With that, I just don't want us to be stressed out and
to the last minute.
Yeah, if we started it like this week and just came up with 4 ideas for compensation improvement.
Yeah.
Then we could come up with 4 ideas pretty quickly because it's all fresh in our head, I think.
Yeah, and then if we just do that each week, then we can, should we do that? Tammy, would you mind setting up a Google Doc again?
Absolutely. I'll do an email with a link to this video and a link to a new Google Doc.
Okay. So I appreciate you guys. This was a little bit of a different discussion type of a thing for me. I thought it was a little different, but
yeah. Well, I thought the case was funny too. It was a little bit, I thought, like cats and dogs. I would think that a huge decision like this would be done by the CEO and the board of directors, but I guess this is specifically people fighting or discussing with each other, and I don't know, maybe they have some influence on how things are done. It was a little wild.
I think they were trying to get employee buy-in by getting these managers on board. But
okay, the big shots.
But I think anytime you tell somebody that their base pay is gonna be whatever, I think you're gonna have to get some buy-in, or you're gonna have a whole bunch of people leaving. So, all right. So as far as I think we're good for today. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
And we will look for that Google Doc.
Oh, yeah.
We'll send it, if not tonight, first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.